Again, my name is Josh Whitlow with Office of Finance and Operation with the Division of District Support. We are going to go over some virtual performance-based setup. Again, nothing has really changed on the virtual performance-based setup, but we do find a lot of errors at the end of the year when you are submitting your SAR. So we want to make sure that everything is set up correctly before you start your school year. So just some virtual performance-based facts. First of all, we want your schedules to look in Infinite Campus as closely as possible what the student is actually doing. If they're taking, 6 classes, we want those classes to be shown, which we'll go into detail on how we would like those set up. We do recommend that you all set them up this way that we're going through today, just because we can assist you more and to make sure that you are getting the maximum funding for your district on those virtual performance-based students. Just keep in mind, students cannot be checked in or out of Infinite Campus. If the student's being checked in or out, that does not show because, again, virtual performance-based is not an attendance course. Virtual performance-based does not count on your growth factor. You get all that credit at the end of the school year, which is on your SAR. Again, keep in mind that seat time classes must contain 120 hours of Carnegie unit. We'll show you how to make sure that is set up correctly. And again, that makes sure that you're getting their proper funding as well. So just a few things. What is virtual performance based? Your Gatton and Craft Academies, they are 100% performance based. Your dual credit, we'll look at those, your online classes, and your credit recovery. So the first one that we'll look at, do these have to be virtual performance based? So the Gatton and Craft Academy must be set up as performance based. Again, there's no attendance taken because, again, you get all that credit at the end of the school year. You'll get 100% attendance on those students and those courses if they pass those courses at the end of the school year. Again, no attendance is taken. We did include the data standard there at the very bottom, which is in your PowerPoint presentation for the Gatton and Craft Academy setup. If you have any questions, you can reach out to me to make sure that those are set up correctly. I can log into your database with you to look at that to make sure those are set up correctly. Dual credit, we do have a lot of questions on dual credit on how they need to be set up. But this is a district option on how, if you want those to be set up as performance-based or seat time. Again, it all depends on how your district is set up. Keep in mind, if you are taking just a recommendation, if you have a teacher that is dual credit certified, we do ask that those are, because again, those students are in seat time. So we do ask that those are marked for attendance. But if the student is leaving the campus and going to college campus, that must be set up as performance-based. Anytime a student is leaving campus and not a certified teacher with them, it has to be set up for performance-based. If you're taking a bus of students to the college campus and you have a certified teacher with them that works in your district and for your district, then yes, you can set up as attendance-based. But again, I've only seen that one time in the district and I only did that in 1 year. Some pros and cons for virtual performance based. Again, your pro side is if the student passes the course at the end of the school year, you will get 100% of attendance. It does not require your 120 hours of Carnegie unit, and it allows the students to work at their own pace. That's on your pro side for the virtual performance based. The con side, no attendance funding. If you don't receive if the student does not pass the course at all for that. Again, you cannot check in or out with virtual performance based. So again, you're not getting that attendance side of things. And again, there's no performance based or virtual attendance on your growth factor. So those do not count towards your numbers. We do stress to you all that you have to pick a lane. You cannot have both. We are seeing a lot of that's happening when you're running your growth factor. When Laura Lohman is running that, she is seeing that, hey, you have these courses marked for performance based with attendance. And then when the SAR comes in, it's showing, hey, you've unchecked that attendance. And so we're running into issues with that. So that's why we tell you at the very beginning, you must pick a lane, virtual performance-based side or attendance-based side. So make sure you're keeping that in your back of your head when you're scheduling those courses and creating those courses. Here's just a little flow chart that we're going to be looking at. Again, first, you're going to set up those courses, you're going to schedule your courses, and then we're going to make sure that you're getting the proper funding for those students who are actually in performance-based, virtual performance-based courses. So again, we'll go through that, but here's just a quick snapshot of how everything needs to flow as far as when you're working on your students and scheduling your students. So the first thing that we're going to look at, and this is one of the most important slides that we have for the virtual performance space, and that is making sure that you have that virtual performance class period outside the day. You want to make sure that it's reaching that 120 units as far as getting that correct time. So what you're going to do is you're going to take the standard day minutes, which is the 415, and you're going to divide that by the number of standard day minutes. So in here, you're going to take the 415, you're going to divide that by 6 class periods, and it's going to give you roughly around 69.1 minutes. We always tell you to round that up 1 minute. So we're going to make sure that that's 70 minutes. We do see a lot of districts that are wanting to put the virtual performance-based classes inside the day. We're not going to tell you that you cannot do that, but we're going to give you a notice real fast that you're not going to receive the proper funding. So if you have a virtual performance space that's like right here during fourth period, and we're automatically going to deduct that 25 minutes because again, that's 25 minutes of non-instructional time because of lunch. So that's why we stress to you to make sure that your virtual performance-based classes are outside the day. You'll put that placeholder in there, of course, for your periods that's inside the day, but we want all your classes that are virtual performance-based outside the day. So the next step here is the virtual performance-based course setup. So your courses need to make sure that they are set up correctly. This is another area that we find that is not marked correctly. You will see last year we did add extra type, and that's the ABV, and that's the attendance-based online virtual, which Karen Davidson is going to go into some of that in the next session that we have right after my session here. But you want to make sure that if it's a virtual performance base, so if we're going to say performance, again, that student is off campus taking college classes like dual credit or something like that, or if they're at home, the true virtual performance base, they're not coming in to school, that's performance base, and you're going to make sure that attendance checkbox is unchecked. This is where we're seeing some districts that are trying to play the system, we should say, that they're putting that attendance checkbox on the courses, and then at the end of the year, they're taking it off. We're finding a lot, it's going to actually give you an error on our side when Laura and I work on that as well as Rhonda. So again, make sure if it's a true virtual performance base, you're going to make sure it's type as P performance or V online virtual, and that attendance checkbox is not checked. Now, I will say if you're doing a dual credit and that teacher is teaching those courses inside your district, again, you can leave that performance base just so it gives you that marking, and then you can check that attendance for the dual credit courses. Again, this is all three slides I've gone over are very, very important. Again, this one's just as equally as important because again, if you do not have that final grade on the grades tab, we will not fund you for that. We were finding this a couple of years ago. We had a district that they kind of skipped this part because they put the final grade on the transcript. The SAR application does not look at transcripts. It's only looking at the grades tab only. So again, all thing you're required to do is put a final grade on the grades tab. Some districts want to put all the grades on there, and that's totally fine. But the main thing that we're looking for is that final grade to see if they have a passing or a failing grade. Again, if it's on the transcript, you will not receive any funding at all. So we want to make sure that that is on there correctly. Again, you can reach out to me on that to make sure I will do some spot checking for you, or you can send me a course number and I will pull that up in the system to see if that's marked correctly or not. Hopefully by now everyone is using the funding gap audit report. This is not a new report, but again, when I'm going out to districts to do training, when I start mentioning funding gap audit report, I just have that look like I have no idea what you're talking about. But again, make sure that you are using this report. This is the only report in Infinite Campus that looks at seat time and virtual performance-based time. Again, you can find the funding gap audit report if you're doing the new look under tool search, and then you can just type in funding gap audit. If you're in the classic look, it's under Kentucky State Reporting Funding Gap Audit Report. What this report does, it pulls all your students that are not reaching that 100% on funding and looks at the whole entire year at that. So let's go to the next slide where I can break it down for you. Here you'll see seat time percentage, and then you'll see the virtual performance-based time percentage. So you want to add those two numbers up, and if that equals 93% or above, that student is receiving full funding or the maximum funding for that student. Again, this is one of those reports that's not meant to be cleared. I know that when we go through a lot of reporting, we want those reports clean and cleared so you don't have any, excuse me, that you don't have any reports or errors on that. But again, the funding gap audit report is not meant to be cleared. It's just giving you a heads up saying, hey, look at these students to make sure that student has a correct schedule. So if we look at the three lines there, you will see the blue line, you see the 64% of seat time and 13% on virtual performance space. You add those two together, that's 77%. So we know, again, we need to look at that student to make sure that the schedule is correct. Because again, if not, we're losing funding and we're not going to be able to fund you correctly. Again, the red line there, same thing. They only have 78% on seat time and they have 0% on virtual performance space. That look at their schedule, they may not have the virtual performance space type on the courses that they're taking. So we need to make sure that that's correct. And then you see the green line, they hit that 93%, so we can just skip right over that student. Let's see. Again, last year we started the A8 schools. That's the blended learning groups. The guidance and setup for the A8 schools, so blended learning groups will be required. That's something that we cannot bypass. They have to be set up correctly. If they're not set up correctly, you will not receive funding the correct way. Keep in mind, grades K through 4, attendance must be taken in a minimum of 2 times a day. That's it in the morning and the afternoon. That's because of the whole day, half day attendance. And then grades 5 through 12, attendance must be taken every single class period. Unless they are in the virtual performance-based side of things, then again, you don't have to worry about attendance on that side. There are 4 steps to making sure that your blended learning group is set up correctly. That's first, you're going to create the blended learning group, assign that blended learning group to your calendar. Then you're going to assign the full-time virtual students to that blended learning group. And then you'll need to give teachers access to track a virtual attendance. So you need to enable that virtual attendance so they can take on their side when they're in their classroom monitor, that's going to be participation. So they'll have to keep in mind it's different from in-seat attendance. So in-seat attendance, students are marked present until marked absent. On the blended learning group side of things, the students are marked non-participation until they are marked participated. And then you'll need to make sure that you're turning the posting attendance on so the NVA code is writing at nighttime. If you have any questions on that, Ben Maynard is your point of contact for that, and he will be able to assist you to make sure everything is set up correctly on that side. Here are some resources. Here's our virtual performance-based data standard. Again, you can also find the PowerPoint. It goes step by step. This is kind of a highlight, an overview of the virtual performance-based setup. But we do have a in-depth PowerPoint that goes step by step to making sure everything is set up correctly. let's see, I'm looking at the comments here. Says do not use start end times. That is correct. When you're setting up those courses for the virtual performance space, you never want to put a start date or end time or start date or end date on the virtual performance based courses, because again, we want that to span over the entire year to make sure that you are getting the maximum funding on that. And Dee Dee, I think that is yes, that's my last slide there. Do you have any other questions?
Questions for you. So I'm just kind of I'm going to skip the first few because I don't think they're specific to you. So
Okay.
the ones that are, one of the bullet points on slide 12 said, do not use start and end dates. Can you elaborate on that?
So that's what I was just talking about, the start and end dates. You don't want to put those in there. So seat time courses, you do want to put the start and end date because basically that's saying, hey, Josh Whitlow is taking English 4, but now he's going to move over to dual credit virtual performance base. So that you will end date the end seat on, say, he's took it for 1 week. So you'll end date the last day that that student is in there, but then he's moving to virtual performance base English 4 because I'm going to either take it dual credit or I'm going to be doing it at home learning. So you will take that. So when you do the new for the virtual performance base, just leave that start date and end date. So we want that to cover the whole entire school year.
Okay. Next question is, what if your school is A8 and all virtual? Do you suggest adding the virtual performing based classes in each period or as a VB block?
That's when we'll have you to reach out to Ben because, I mean, again, no school is set up the same, and I would hate to give you wrong directions because Ben is going to know how your school is set up. So again, I'm going to have you to reach out to Ben Maynard on that. Right. He may refer you back to me, which is totally fine, because he's going to say, hey, this school is set up this way. Can you help them? And then I'll be more than glad to help you on that side. But again, I'm going to have you reach out to him first. Just so that I know the way that your district and school is set up.
So do you use a digital learning placeholder course during the day if students are scheduled in a period to allow them to work on dual credit? If so, is the attendance box checked for that digital learning course?
So the digital learning placeholder, I'm assuming you're talking about the placeholder inside the day, and the virtual performance space courses are set outside the day. Again, that's going to be how your district is wanting to set that up. If the student is with a certified teacher, so we're kind of saying this is kind of like a credit recovery. If that teacher is a certified teacher and they're in the computer lab, media center, or something like that, then yes, you can check that attendance checkbox. But if they're in the commons area or they're in the media center or in the library or computer lab with not a certified teacher, then they should not have the attendance checkbox on that.
So to clarify, would a dual credit course being taught on a high school campus in which a full credit is awarded for less than 120 hours of seat time need to be performance based?
If it's at the college course or college campus, yes, it is performance based.
Yeah, this one's at the high school campus.
It's at the high school camp. Sorry, I was reading that as you was reading and listening to. So if it's at the high school campus, if the teacher is teaching that, that's going to be a district decision on how you want it to look. But a lot of times, all the districts that I usually work with, if it's a teacher teaching that course, then yeah, it is set up as seat time.
Okay. So a final grade on virtual performance-based courses, what if it has CTE final as the grading task? I have those for the KTE data exchange and was told they need to say CTE final.
That's totally fine. Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. All right. And let me just hit the wrong button. Here we go. For the final grade on, let's see, no, that's a duplicate. What if the DC class is online and students have a class period set aside to do the work? Attendance or no? And I think you kind of covered this one already. Would our virtual teacher?
If it's less than 120 hours, it will have to be virtual performance based. So if they're finishing that course with less than 120 hours of learning a unit, then it must be set up as virtual performance space.
So we use trimesters. Should we use start and end dates on our second virtual performance dual credit courses so that students don't have the double amount of attendance credit for second trimester? The first and second semester of college courses overlap in the second trimester.
So you still won't use the start end dates because, again, our STAR system is going to not pay you for over 1 day of attendance. That's just something that we have coded inside of Infinite Campus and the STAR side, STAR application. So again, it may show you that, yes, you are getting 300 days worth of attendance. But again, we're only going, if you're on school 175, we're only going to pay you for 175.
So we got a couple more questions, Josh, but we were sneaking into Karen's time. So we may come back to those at the end, but if not, we'll definitely put answers out there. So you'll get your answers today in the comments. So if you click on your question, you'll see the response when you open that up.